Hello everyone. In the previous session we have seen 3 applications of GPT-2 wherein we were talking about text generation, text summarization and dialogue sequence using GPT-2. In these sessions we will be talking about generating text using RNN and GPT-2. Specifically here we will be talking about character generation than word generation. So in the previous session applications, we were concentrating word as the token. Here we will be considering individual character as the token. So let us see the text generation with RNN and GPT-2. So generating text one character at a time. As I mentioned, here we will be considering one character at a time generation. So generating the text one character at a time using RNN and GPT-2 involves, what is the application of text generation? We are trying to predict the next token. So in the previous sessions the token was a word, here the next token is our character. So here text generation means we are going to predict the next character in the sequence based on previously generated characters. So what is the process involved in this? When you are using RNN for character generation, RNN is a type of neural network, we know recurrent neural network. It is well suited for sequential data, right? So what exactly RNN does? It maintains a hidden state about the already generated characters in the sequence. In the character level RNN, what the model will do, it learns to predict what could be the next token or the next character based on the previously predicted tokens, right? So this is done by the process of generating one character at a time, and you are adjusting the weights. See, if at all you are going to work with attention mechanism and all, you are going to assign weights to the words where word is a token. So now in this, because character is our token, we are going to adjust the weights in order to minimize the prediction errors. What kind of predictions we are doing? We are going to predict what would be the next character in the sequence. At each step, the model outputs a probability distribution over possible next characters. Say for example, I have typed CA. So what could be the next possible characters? I can have a word CA is already typed. The next character can be CAB. It can be a cab, and it can be JKLM, CAM, it can be CAN, it can be CAP, so likewise. So it tries to generate a probability distribution on what could be the next possible character. And how does it select the one is based on the next character with most of the probability distribution value, depending on the context. So it has to understand the context, at the same time it has to give probability distribution for what could be the possible next character, and it has to decide the character with highest probability distribution, right? And the same thing is happening with GPT-2 also. GPT-2 is also generating text, right? So how does it do? We have seen when we were talking about text generation using GPT-2, what it does is it will start with a prompt. The user has to give a prompt. Based on the prompt, it will try to decide what could be the next words in the sequence. So here also it starts with a prompt, one character at a time, and once it predicts the next character, the next character will be added to the already predicted characters, and that will act as a prompt, right? So if you observe here, when you are generating one character at a time, the GPT-2 processes the given text, predicts the next character, appends it to the sequence and uses the updated sequence for the next prediction. So whichever new character is generated, that will be appended to the already generated sequence of characters, and that new updated sequence will act as a prompt for predicting the next token or next character. So both the things can be used for generating character. What is the next character? So where the model predicts one character at a time based on the previous characters. What is the difference or variation lies? RNNs are maintaining hidden states during the sequence processing, whereas GPT uses the transformer architecture. What is the transformer architecture here? Already we started with a prompt, then we generated the next token. The generated new token is attached to the existing sequence, and this becomes the new token for us in order to proceed. Then generating one character at a time. What are the key steps when we are talking with respect to GPT-2? So in these sessions we will be mostly concentrating on GPT-2 mechanisms. So what is the first step? Pre-training. Under pre-training, the GPT-2, we know it is trained on a vast amounts of data, voluminous data, and it uses the transformer architecture. What do you mean by transformer architecture? It keeps on adjusting the weights whenever it is trying to find out a token. The token will be used in the next token prediction. So which excels in capturing long range dependencies, and it is understanding the context very well. Prompting. The GPT-2 text generation always starts with a prompt, and which is the initial sequence of words or characters which we are submitting to the model. The model uses this prompt as context to generate the subsequent text. What is autoregressive generation? It generates the text in autoregressive manner. What do you mean by autoregressive manner? It is predicting what could be the next possible token. It could be a word, subword, or part of a word, or it could be the next character. So what is the granularity of the token that we have to decide, whether we are going for word generation or part of the word or a single character. Conditioning on the previous tokens. So it is always trying to attach the newly generated token to already generated tokens, and this newly combined one becomes the prompt for next character or next token generation. And we also read about these sampling techniques while generating the text. Let us quickly look at them. In order to generate diverse and creative text, GPT-2 is using various types of sampling techniques. It could be top K sampling, top P sampling, which we are also calling it as nucleus sampling, or temperature scaling. Top K sampling, the model limits itself to the top K most likely tokens, whereas top P sampling focuses on smaller set, right? Temperature controls. If you try to increase the heat, you are trying to talk about what could be the most token that matches the context, that matches the scenario and with highest probability value. Whereas you are reducing the temperature means you are trying to allow it to give one of the matching tokens. You are not particular about the randomness, right? Text output. The model continues to generate the tokens until it reaches the threshold value. Threshold value means, suppose I want to generate a token of 5 characters, or I want to complete the sentence depending on the context. So you need to specify what is the threshold for you when you are trying to generate the text. So once you receive the threshold value, it stops generating the tokens and it gives you the output. So I can give you a simple example. Say for example, you are asking ChatGPT, can you generate description on attention mechanism in 5 sentences. So where it has to stop, what is the threshold here? 5 sentences. So it will try to generate 5 sentences. The moment fifth sentence is completed, it puts a full stop. It stops generating new content and gives you the output of 5 sentences, right? So what is GPT generating? GPT-2, it is generating the text by predicting what could be the next token based on the context provided by the input prompt. So we need to keep it in mind, input prompt plays a very important role in giving the context information to the model. It uses a transformer based architecture to identify the relationship between various types of tokens that are already generated, which one is to be considered with high importance, high probability, etc. For that, it is using various sampling strategies and it is producing creative text if you are trying to go for sampling techniques, and coherent text which is matching the context, and contextually appropriate tokens. And text summarization, this is the another application which we have already seen with GPT-2. Text summarization with sequence to sequence transformer and attention mechanisms. We have seen this with GPT-2 model, which is using the attention mechanism and which is trying to take the prompt. Now text summarization with sequence to sequence transformer and attention. What does it involve? There are 2 types of summarizations. If you remember, we have learnt about this in the previous session: extractive summarization, abstractive summarization. Extractive summarization, from the original paragraph you are going to take some of the sentences and possibly exact keywords which are present in the paragraph, and you are going to generate a summary of it. On the other hand, abstractive summarization, it need not take the keywords from the paragraph, but it can generate the summary of it in its own sentences, in its own words. That is abstractive summarization. So there are 2 major types of summarizations: extractive and abstractive. The sequence to sequence model with attention mechanism and transformer architecture does abstractive summarization very well. So what is the sequence to sequence model? We have learnt it in the initial sessions. It comes with the encoder decoder framework. What does the encoder do? It processes the input text and generates a set of hidden states, or it generates a fixed length vector, right? What does the decoder do? It generates the summary based on the encoded input representation, and the decoder predicts the next token in the sequence until the final token is generated. What are the challenges? It can struggle with long texts because you have a fixed length context vector. What is the attention mechanism trying to do? The attention mechanism, it was the kind of solution for the limitations of sequence to sequence model using fixed length encoding. What it will do is, instead of going for a single context vector, it allows the model to focus on different parts of the input sequence, and every sequence is handled one time, one step at a time. And how does this attention mechanism works? When you are generating the summary, the model attends to different tokens in the input sequence based on their relevance to the decoding phase, right? The model computes attention weights for every word and seeing which word contributes more for decoding, which words can be neglected. Likewise, it keeps on giving some attention weights. This enables the model to selectively use information from various parts of the input sequence. How do I select my various parts of the input sequence? Whichever has higher weight, we try to take those tokens as helping us to generate the or process the input sequence. Because you are trying to select only some of the tokens from the input sequence based on the weights, it improves the speed or it improves the performance in processing huge passages of texts or longer texts. What is the transformer architecture? This model was, as it is introduced in the paper, attention is all you need. What it will do is, it uses the self-attention mechanism. In this, what it will do is, it determines how each word is related to the input sequence. Say for example, I am trying to say the sentence, right now I am teaching, right now I am recording, and I am teaching generative AI. I have given 3 sentences, I am teaching, I am recording, I am teaching generative AI, 3 sentences. I am teaching, right? What are the important things and which can be neglected and which can be predicted automatically, right? I teach, right? So, who is teaching? I am teaching. What am I doing? Teaching. So, as of now, I am teaching, these 2 things in the entire sentence which can be important for us, who is teaching and what am I doing, right? So, I teach, these 2 could be important compared to am, because after I automatically am should follow sometimes, 90% of the times after I we try to see am. So, am is given less weight, less attention compared to I and teaching, right? So, under self-attention, the transformer uses a self-attention mechanism to determine how each word in the input sequence relates to every other word. This helps us to identify the relationships between various tokens of the longer sequences. In order to do this, we try to go for scaled dot product attention, wherein we try to calculate the attention scores between various pairs of tokens in the input sequence and use these scores in order to weigh the importance of the tokens. Multi-head attention, the transformer uses multiple attention heads in order to capture different types of relationships between various tokens of the words, and this happens in parallel. This enables the model to focus on various parts of the input text simultaneously. Positional encoding, transformer doesn't know the sequential order unlike various models. It uses the positional encoding schemes in order to identify which word comes after what. And the encoder-decoder architecture, encoder uses self-attention with feed-forward and it generates the contextual representations. It gives more information on the context. The decoder uses the output of the encoder and applies masked self-attention mechanisms in order to predict or in order to generate the summary of the sentence. Transformer for abstractive summarization, we have seen various types of transformers, encoder, decoder and BART, T5, all these things they use the encoder-decoder architecture. And what are the benefits of transformer? You can take care of long range dependencies, you can understand the context better, and scalability. You can try to scale it to higher size text information. So, what is the summary of sequence to sequence models? They are using the attention and transformer architecture. They are trying to understand the context. They are trying to give weights to various tokens of the input text in order to identify their importance in generating the summary. Thank you.